It's more bad news in 2025 for Natalie Wood's husband, Robert Wagner. Investigators just revealed more damning details about his involvement in Natalie Wood's mysterious drowning of 1981. And if you've noticed a reduction in his public appearances, reports say the 95-year-old is too consumed by guilt to face the truth. But what is the truth? Reports from eyewitnesses on that fateful day state that the actress vanished during a late-night trip on her husband's yacht, the Splendor. However, it was also reported that he was the one who stopped the captain from starting a search. Later, when the case was reopened, he refused to cooperate. It's been more than 4 decades since the tragic event took place, and the questions surrounding that night never really went away, making it one of Hollywood's darkest mysteries. To begin to unravel this mystery, we have to go back to the very beginning. Natalie Wood's exposure to fame began at a very young age. Born on July 20th, 1938, in San Francisco, Natalie's real name was Natalia Nikolaevna Zakharenko. Her parents, Maria and Nikolai, were Russian immigrants who came to America hoping for a better life. But since they had very little, the family was open to every opportunity. And it came in the most unexpected way when Natalie was just 4 years old. Her family had moved to Santa Rosa, California, and one day, a movie was being filmed near where they lived. Natalie caught the attention of the crew, and they decided to give her a tiny part. Later, she appeared again in the film Happy Land, on screen for only 15 seconds. Those brief moments were enough to get noticed. Director Irving Pickel saw her talent and kept in touch with the family, waiting for the right role to launch her career. Soon, Pickel told Natalie's mother, Maria, about a part that would suit Natalie perfectly. Without thinking twice, Maria packed up the family and moved to Los Angeles. Despite her husband's initial hesitation, nothing would change her mind. She was convinced Natalie was destined for greatness. By the time Natalie was 7, she had landed her first major role in Tomorrow is Forever, 1946, acting alongside Orson Welles and Claudette Colbert. Surprisingly, this was no pressure for the young child, who did so well that even Orson Welles later said, "It was amazing how she didn't just recite lines, she acted from the heart." Clearly, Natalie wasn't just another child actress. Everyone was starting to notice. She soon signed with 20th Century Fox and landed a role as Gene Tierney's daughter in The Ghost and Mrs. Muir. Her true breakthrough, however, came later that same year in Miracle on 34th Street. In the film, she played a smart little girl who didn't believe in Santa Claus. The movie quickly became a Christmas classic and made Natalie a household name. After Miracle on 34th Street, she became one of the most famous child stars in Hollywood. Her popularity grew so much that she was even invited to take part in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, a rare honor for someone so young. But behind the fame, life as a child actor was far from easy. California law required child performers to spend at least 3 hours each day in school while filming. To meet that rule, Natalie studied on set, keeping up with her lessons until she turned 18. She was a straight A student who excelled in math. Director Joseph L. Mankiewicz, who worked with her on The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, once called her the smartest child he had ever met. Acting may have seemed like a dream job, but the reality was harsh. By the time she was 8 years old, Natalie was working as many as 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. The demands were constant, and few people worried about how badly it affected her. But the girl was resilient. Her career took a step forward in the mid-1950s when she starred in Rebel Without a Cause. Critics were very impressed by Natalie's performance, praising her ability to show raw and genuine emotion. She was clearly taking her job very seriously. Making the movie came with challenges. Natalie and her co-star Dennis Hopper were in a car accident and sustained minor injuries. But the real tragedy came soon after production ended. James Dean, the film's lead actor, died in a car crash. His sudden death devastated the cast and crew. After the film was released, praise poured in from all directions. Natalie's performance was especially applauded. Recognition came quickly. In 1956, Natalie earned an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress. Even though she did not win, The nomination showed Hollywood that she had the talent to compete at the highest level. That same year, she received a Golden Globe Award for Most Promising Newcomer, cementing her reputation as a rising star. Rebel Without a Cause had become an iconic film, and it had secured Natalie's place in Hollywood. But success came with a price. The young Natalie had to deal with complicated relationships and the pressures of growing up in front of the public. She was only 16 years old when she began a relationship with director Nicholas Ray, who was 43 at the time. Many believe this was part of her commitment to her role, as she threw herself into Judy's troubled world. 2 years later, she admitted she looked back on that relationship with regret, describing it as painful and something that should never have happened. Despite these personal issues, Natalie's career was soaring. She had successfully transitioned from child actress to leading lady and established herself as one of Hollywood's brightest talents, with 2 unforgettable performances. In Splendor in the Grass, she played a young woman struggling with heartbreak and mental illness. The performance was so powerful, and the movie was a major success, earning her a second Academy Award nomination. Immediately after, she starred as Maria in West Side Story, one of the most beloved musicals in history. She played a Puerto Rican girl who falls in love with a boy from a rival gang. West Side Story became a massive hit, winning 10 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. In 1963, she took on a daring new role in Love with a Proper Stranger, playing a woman facing an unplanned pregnancy. The role earned her a 3rd Academy Award nomination and strengthened her reputation as a powerhouse actress. These roles marked a turning point in Natalie's career. Barely in her mid-20s, Natalie had established herself as one of Hollywood's most important actresses. But for Natalie, it wasn't enough. She wanted to be better. Success made her feel trapped. She had become so good at playing certain roles that those became the only roles she was being offered. She wanted more challenging work. And so, in the mid-1960s, she made a shocking move. She paid $175,000 to break her contract with Warner Brothers and also turned down major films like Barefoot in the Park, believing they would not help her grow as an actress. But stepping away from the Hollywood system came with consequences. She became less visible and offers slowed down. The pressure of shaping her own career, while also dealing with personal struggles, became overwhelming. That same year, she attempted suicide by overdosing on sleeping pills. She survived, but the event forced her to step back and reevaluate everything. Taking a break from acting, she decided to let go of her entire team and focus on her mental health. 3 years later, she returned to the screen in 1969 and starred in Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, an unconventional film that became an instant hit. As the 1970s began, Natalie shifted her focus from big films to television so she could spend more time with her family and adjust to the changing entertainment industry. Her first big television project came in 1973 with The Affair, where she played a married woman involved in a secret romance. The program was a massive success, attracting nearly 30 million viewers, proving she could command attention on the small screen, just as she had in film. Soon after, she took on the role of Maggie in a television version of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, a role made famous by Elizabeth Taylor. Critics praised her, noting that she brought her own depth and style to the part. Then, in 1979, Natalie starred in the miniseries From Here to Eternity, which became a major television event. Airing over 5 nights, it drew close to 40 million viewers each night. Her performance was widely celebrated, and after 7 previous nominations, she finally won a Golden Globe Award. Natalie's personal life also changed during this period. She had married Robert Wagner, and it was all she had wished for as a little girl. She once told her mother that she would marry him someday. When she turned 18, that dream came true. They began dating, and their whirlwind romance led to a wedding on December 28, 1957, in Scottsdale, Arizona. To the outside world, they were Hollywood's golden couple. But behind closed doors, things were not as perfect. As Natalie's career soared, Robert slowed down, and the difference created tension. By the early 1960s, their marriage was in trouble. Some stories suggest that Natalie once found Robert in a compromising situation with another man in their home. something that would have caused a scandal at the time, if true. Whatever the reason, their relationship fell apart. They separated in June of 1961, and by April 27, 1962, the divorce was final. After the split, Natalie began dating Warren Beatty, but their relationship was stormy and full of constant fighting. She later admitted it was emotionally exhausting. Robert, on the other hand, struggled deeply after losing her. He left Los Angeles and spent time in Europe trying to heal. Natalie's second marriage was to British producer Richard Gregson, a man she met through their mutual friend, Robert Redford. After 3 years of dating, they married on May 30th, 1969, in a Russian Orthodox ceremony in California. At first, this seemed like the fresh start she needed. Having gone through divorce and emotional turmoil before, Richard gave her a sense of stability. Their happiness grew when they welcomed their daughter, Natasha, in September of 1970. But soon, things began to change. As Natalie put her energy into motherhood, Richard grew distant. Eventually, he had an affair with Natalie's secretary. When she discovered the betrayal, she was devastated. She confronted him immediately, threw him out of their home, and filed for divorce on August 4th, 1971. Though the heartbreak was painful, Natalie focused on raising Natasha and moved forward with strength. In 1972, a decade after their divorce, Natalie and Robert crossed paths again. During their time apart, both had married other people. Robert had married actress Marion Marshall, and Natalie had married Richard. By early 1972, both were single again. In January of that year, they rekindled their romance. Friends told Natalie to take it slow, but she believed that she and Robert had grown and changed, and that their love was stronger the second time around. Their reunion was fast and intense, and by July 16th, 1972, they married again. Their second marriage seemed stronger than the first. Natalie and Robert welcomed their daughter together, and Robert also embraced being a stepfather to Natasha. For a while, their family life seemed perfect, filled with love and a sense of renewal. With her focus now on family, she acted far less often than she had during the 1950s and 1960s. The couple finally had the family life they had always dreamed of, and it seemed like real happiness was finally theirs. But that happiness ended suddenly in the early 1980s when Natalie's life was cut short under mysterious circumstances. Natalie was working on what would become her final movie, Brainstorm, a science fiction thriller. She played a scientist working on a device that could record human experiences. In late November of that year, Natalie joined her husband, Robert Wagner, her co-star Christopher Walken, and the yacht's captain, Dennis Davern, for a trip to Catalina Island on their boat, the Splendor. What was meant to be a quiet holiday turned into a tragedy. At first, more friends were supposed to join them, but in the end, it was only the four of them. On Friday, they left Marina del Rey and anchored near Avalon, a small town on Catalina. Natalie, Robert, and Christopher spent the day shopping and drinking, while the captain stayed with the boat. Everything seemed normal, but the next night would change everything. On Saturday, Robert decided to move the yacht to a quieter spot because the weather was turning bad. The night was cold, windy, and the waters were rough. That evening, they went to Doug's Harbor Reef, the only restaurant in the area. They arrived early in the evening and spent hours drinking champagne, wine, and cocktails. By the time they left, they were very drunk. The staff later recalled how intoxicated they had been. Not long after they returned to the yacht, voices were raised. Robert reportedly shouted, "Get off my boat!" Around this time, a woman named Marilyn Wayne and her boyfriend, John Payne, who were on a nearby vessel, heard a woman's voice crying for help. The voice kept calling, "Help me, someone, I am drowning," for about 15 minutes before it stopped. According to them, the voice seemed to come from the direction of the yacht Splendor. They also claimed to hear a man, who sounded drunk, replying, "Okay, honey." Later, Natalie was found dead. In the investigation of her death, new details from Marilyn Wayne added that Natalie had once confided in her that Robert had threatened to kill her. If these words were true, they suggested that Natalie's marriage was far more troubled than people knew. Another mystery was the delay in raising the alarm. The Coast Guard was not contacted until early in the morning, more than 4 hours after she had last been seen. The rescue boat captain, who eventually found her body, said he wasn't notified until almost 6 hours later. That delay only added to suspicions about how her disappearance was handled. An autopsy revealed her blood alcohol level was high, and she also had painkillers and motion sickness pills in her system. The mix of alcohol and medication, combined with the strange circumstances, deepened the doubts about what really happened. There were also reports of a heated argument between NATALIE and Robert that night, described by witnesses as filled with tension. In August of 2012, the case took a major turn. For many years, NATALIE's death certificate listed the cause as accidental drowning. But after months of fresh investigation, the record was changed to drowning and other undetermined factors. During this time, Wagner's own story began to shift. He admitted that there had been heavy drinking that night and that he had argued with actor Christopher Walken about NATALIE's career. He confessed that he lost his temper, picked up a wine bottle, slammed it on the table, and shattered it. This admission stood in sharp contrast to his earlier statements, which downplayed the seriousness of the night. His words now lined up more closely with what Captain Dennis Davern had been saying for years, that the night on the Splendor was far more chaotic than Wagner first claimed. The inconsistencies in Wagner's statements, along with the change in NATALIE's official cause of death, marked a turning point. Many began to question whether her death was really an accident, or if something more sinister had happened. One of the most troubling things was Wagner's refusal to fully cooperate. When the case was reopened in 2018, Lieutenant John Carina openly said that Wagner's version of events did not match what other witnesses had reported. That same year, nearly 37 years after NATALIE's death, Wagner was officially named a person of interest. Christopher Walken, who was also on the yacht that night, remained mostly silent. But in a magazine interview in 2012, he finally spoke. He said only NATALIE could know what truly happened because she was alone when she went into the water. He recalled that she had gone to bed before the others and guessed she might have stepped outside to secure a small boat that was knocking against the side of the yacht. Another twist came up in 2021 when a terrible secret about NATALIE's life was revealed. Her sister, Lana, published a book in which she shared something NATALIE had once told her. Back in the year 1955, when NATALIE was only 16 years old, their mother arranged a meeting with actor Kirk Douglas, hoping his influence would help her daughter's career. He was one of the most powerful men in Hollywood, able to open doors that others could not. But that night took a dark turn. When NATALIE returned to the car, her clothes were messy and she looked shaken. She whispered something urgently to her mother. Lana, who was still a child, did not understand, but she could sense that something was terribly wrong. Years later, NATALIE confided in her younger sister and finally revealed the truth. She told Lana, "He hurt me." Lana wrote in her book that NATALIE had been brutally raped and that Kirk Douglas was the assailant. While this new information didn't directly add more to the mystery of her death, fans realized how difficult things had been for young NATALIE and why some of her decisions at the time weren't just out of the blue. Robert Wagner was initially a person of interest in the death of NATALIE, but was later removed. However, homicide detectives now have reason to believe that Robert was cheating on NATALIE before her death with Jill St. John. Jill, now 85, has always maintained she didn't start dating Robert until 3 months after NATALIE's death. This is different from what Splendor's skipper, Dennis Davern, previously told the National Enquirer. He had said, "I think Jill stepped into the program prior to NATALIE's death." He even claimed he was kept inside Robert's mansion after NATALIE's death to keep him silenced, and that Jill was also there. In Dennis's words, "She was at Wagner's house instantly, but I couldn't see what was going on because I was trapped in that room." He added that he could only leave when accompanied by Robert's thugs. Another insider, who refused to be named, had this to say of Robert regarding NATALIE's mysterious death. "The memories won't leave him alone, but he'd rather crawl into the woodwork than confront the past. He knows he doesn't have a huge amount of time left, and he's worried something will come out to damn him forever." Clearly, some important information is yet to come to light, and it's just not looking too good. Natalie Wood's life was true. It was filled with brilliance, but also shadowed by pain and unanswered questions. From her early rise as a gifted child star to her struggles with personal trauma and the mysterious circumstances of her death, her story shows both the beauty and the darkness of Hollywood. Tragically, Natalie died on November 29, 1981, at the age of 43, before filming was complete. Most of her scenes had already been shot, but production was put on hold. At one point, the studio even considered canceling the project to collect insurance money. Director Douglas Trumbull, however, fought to finish the movie as a tribute to her. The missing scenes were completed using careful editing, body doubles, and even Natalie's sister, Lana Wood. Brainstorm was finally released in September of 1983, nearly 2 years after her death. While it was not a major box office success, critics praised its imaginative special effects and bold storytelling. Over time, it gained a cult following and came to be seen as an important piece of science fiction cinema. Beyond its futuristic themes, the film carries deep emotional weight as Natalie's final performance, making it a lasting and powerful part of her Hollywood legacy.